Los Angeles, summer of 1985. The city of angels was living a nightmare. People locked their doors, nailed shut their windows, and prayed that darkness would pass without incident. A faceless intruder was out there, moving silently through the night, choosing victims at random. To the world, he would become known as the Night Stalker. His name, Richard Ramirez, a man shaped by violence, obsession, and evil, whose reign of terror would scar California forever. To understand Richard Ramirez, we must go back to where it all began. Born in El Paso, Texas in 1960, Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez grew up in a home filled with abuse. His father, a former police officer turned laborer, had a violent temper. Beatings were frequent. Fear was constant. At just 10 years old, Richard suffered a severe head injury after being struck unconscious by a swing. Doctors believed this caused lasting brain damage that would later be linked to impulsive violence and aggression. Around the same time, Ramirez began using marijuana, numbing himself from reality. But the true turning point came when Richard's cousin Miguel returned from Vietnam. A man shattered by war, suffering from schizophrenia and post-traumatic stress. Miguel told Richard stories of torture, mutilation, and killing. He even showed photographs of the atrocities he committed. For a teenage Richard, these weren't warnings. They were lessons. One night when Ramirez was just 15, Miguel murdered his wife in front of him, shooting her point blank. Imagine the impact. A child watching a family member take a life without remorse. That image would never leave him. After that night, Richard Ramirez's world changed. He drifted into a life of crime. First it was petty theft, then burglary. He was drawn to the darkness, breaking into homes, moving silently like a shadow. But Richard wasn't just stealing. He was experimenting, testing how far he could go. And alongside burglary came his growing obsession with Satanism. The occult gave him a twisted sense of identity. He believed he was chosen, protected, that his crimes were offerings to a dark power. By 1984, Ramirez escalated. His crimes were no longer about money. They were about fear, power, control. His first known murder was Jenny Vinco, a 79-year-old woman, found stabbed to death in her apartment. The brutality shocked even seasoned detectives, but this was only the beginning. From April 1984 to August 1985, Los Angeles became Richard Ramirez's hunting ground. He struck randomly, breaking into homes, attacking men, women, and even children. There was no pattern, no profile. Anyone could be next. His methods were as varied as they were brutal. He used guns, knives, blunt objects. Sometimes he killed immediately. Other times he prolonged the horror, assaulting his victims while demanding they swear to Satan. By summer 1985, panic had gripped Los Angeles. Hardware stores sold out of locks. Gun shops couldn't keep up with demand. Families slept in shifts, too afraid to close their eyes. The press called him many names: the walk-in killer, the Valley Intruder, but one name stuck: the Night Stalker. Ramirez didn't just kill, he taunted, he left satanic symbols, he reveled in the fear. And the city was crumbling under his shadow. Detectives worked tirelessly, piecing together the chaos. Ramirez had no single type of victim, making profiling impossible. But a breakthrough came when he left behind a footprint, an Avia sneaker print. Uncommon. Detectives tied multiple crime scenes together. Then came the big break. A stolen car linked to Ramirez was found, inside fingerprints. At last, the Night Stalker had a face. On August 31, 1985, Richard Ramirez walked into a convenience store in East Los Angeles. But by then, his face was everywhere. A customer recognized him. Soon, a crowd formed. The community chased him, cornered him, and beat him until police arrived. The Night Stalker's reign was finally over. The trial began in 1988, and it was unlike anything the courts had seen before. Ramirez entered the courtroom with a pentagram drawn on his hand, shouting, "Hail Satan!" His chilling presence unsettled everyone. The evidence was overwhelming. Witness testimonies, fingerprints, ballistics, all pointed to Ramirez. On September 20th, 1989, he was convicted of 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. The sentence, death in California's gas chamber. Yet, Ramirez showed no remorse. He looked at the jury and said, "You don't understand me. You are not expected to. You are not capable." For him, it was never about guilt. It was about power, about control. Even in defeat, he wanted to be feared. Richard Ramirez never faced execution. He spent the rest of his life on death row at San Quentin. In 2013, after more than 2 decades behind bars, he died of complications related to cancer. He was 53 years old. But his story lives on. In documentaries, books, and nightmares, the Night Stalker remains one of America's most infamous serial killers. Not just for the lives he took, but for the fear he created. He wasn't just a murderer. He was a monster who turned the city of angels into a city of fear. And perhaps the most terrifying truth? Evil doesn't always hide in the shadows. Sometimes it walks among us, waiting for nightfall. The Night Stalker may be gone, but the shadows he left behind still haunt us. And this is only one story among countless others waiting in the dark. Subscribe to Dark Files and step deeper into the world of true crime and unsolved mysteries. The darkness is just beginning.